Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devin Decker, and joining me, my host companion, Sejan Sarowick. Sejan?
Hi everybody, what's going on? This is man, it's good to be back in the chair.
It is good to be back in the chair. And Siege, if you allow me to speechify for a moment,
Oh dear.
anyone who's been listening to the show has probably noticed that every fourth episode is a report episode. I mean, hell, you're listening to one right now, and there's something about the number 4. Maybe it's just a me thing, but it's always felt oddly significant considering every 4 years we elect a president. Every 4 years we have a whole extra day added to the calendar. And most pressing to current events, every 4 years we have an Olympics. Now, I know some of you are out there screaming at your device. Actually, Devin, it's every 2 years when you consider winter and summer games. And while you are technically correct, the best kind of correct, since in 1986 it was decided to separate them and hold them in alternating, even-numbered years. Give yourself that pat on the back for knowing it. Today I'm focused more on the Summer Games, and most specifically, the 2020 Olympic Summer Games. I may not seem the type, but I gain real joy from the Olympics, and that's why I want to go on record that I am not watching or supporting them this year. The Olympics are meant to be a celebration of athleticism and show the entire world coming together. And while we're still currently ensconced in the fog of a global pandemic, with some countries with worse numbers than when the Olympics were postponed a year ago, I just find it hard to believe that this is the proper time for such a celebration. Now, I've heard some other pundits say that they'll be engaging in the same cognitive dissonance that allows them to watch domestic professional sporting competitions in order to celebrate our nation's best on the international stage, and to them I wish them well and hope that they can derive the same type of joy as they have in the past. For me, though, I won't be watching, and I'm mostly upset because the Summer Olympics are a time I look back and reflect on my life. I remember sitting at a 99 restaurant watching gymnastics in 2004, starting to make the plans to write the screenplay for Slither. I remember sitting at the bar of Gauchos do Brazil, watching a track and field event in 2008 as we discussed casting Slither. 2012, watching a diving match at Agaves. I overstimulated my vagus nerve, fainted, woke up in the hospital. And during the 2016 games, I was in a low place, and I didn't know that in 4 months, I'd reconnect with Sejan and this show would be born. It bums me out that in 4 years, well, technically 3, I won't really have any Olympic memories to look back on, and I know that it's my choice, and right now it seems like the responsible one. And now back to the usual irreverence of the Say Report.
Man, I I'm struggling as well. Like just to throw my hat
Yeah, well, I mean, that's
over the wall, as it were. I just like it's a difficult one for a number of reasons. You know, I on top of the COVID stuff, just kind of like the icing on the cake, because really the meat and potatoes of this whole thing, to mix my metaphors, is definitely the COVID problem, right?
Yeah.
But there is also some other issues that are really like, I think because of what's going on with that, there's this glaring problem that's going on right now in the ways in which NBC's coverage of the Olympics has gone so far down the tubes that at a time when they have their own fucking app, in which you would think that one of the best things on that app would be to be able to go to it and find these different things, people are left and right complaining that unless you're on a computer, they can't fucking navigate to any of the things they want. The super live coverage that they kind of were promised because of their kind of like dive into the app is just not there. So like people are just more than ever really taking issue with NBC's coverage of it. The problems on TV is apparently the live coverage of it has been nothing but tennis for 2 days, 3 days, and like, you know, not that tennis shouldn't be watched, but other events are going on. I mean, history was just made in the Philippines winning their first ever gold after being in the games for over 200 years. Why was this not something that was on every news channel? Why am I only finding about this through GIFs on Reddit? You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing that is occurring, that is just, as I said, icing really on the cake to the larger issue here of why the fuck are the games even happening right now, is also just like, we push and push and push for these games to happen. I'm not saying we here, obviously here at the City Report, we are not part of it, but like
the Olympics
and then to not
team did.
Cover it.
Yeah.
Right. But like we pushed and pushed and pushed for this thing to occur, and now here we are, and it's being treated like the shit that it's always been treated like. I don't know, man. I've got other issues as well as that, but that is definitely, as I said, that is the bulk of the issue here for sure.
I mean, the strangest thing is one of the big concessions made in order to have the Olympics go on is there will be no spectators. So for you to bring to me, because I have avoided them as best I can. I think the most I know is that France beat the U.S. in basketball, and I knew that a full 12 hours before the footage of that game was shown in America. So that's fun. It's always fun to watch a game where you know the ending, especially if the ending is negative. But again, I'm not watching or anything like that. But because I'm not watching, I was unaware that the coverage was so shoddy, and at a time where it's not like there are people there. All we can rely on are the cameras and the sports reporters and the journalists to tell us what is happening.
Yeah, and anybody that's been watching in the last decade knows that it's just gone down the tubes. It's been worse and worse and worse. I think that the larger issue is that COVID really brought to light the boon that streaming entertainment really could bring to us in a world in which there was issues with gathering. Like the idea of entertainment being blasted into our homes kind of became a necessity, for lack of a better term here, and we proved that we could handle it. And there's a lot of things that really we got to start like looking back on and reflecting on and questioning here. I'd be really interested in the next couple of years what the data cap conversation looks like when a lot of these companies use the justification, well, we need to charge you more because otherwise we just can't handle it. Yet they seem to handle everybody working from home. It was a fear at first that when everybody started working from home and entertaining from home and all that they were going to be that internet was going to kind of show its cracks, but for all intents and purposes it didn't for everybody. For some people it did, and I don't want to like write off the people that had those kinds of issues, but there's this idea that like we all kind of thought it was going to fall apart within months, and they figured it out. This conversation they've been having forever about how they need to charge people extra every time you go over 50 gigs a year of download, that a month, I mean, of download, just because their lines, quote unquote, can't handle it, turned out to be bullshit, right? Like that kind of thing we have to start reflecting on. One of the other things is that there's no excuse for NBC to really be. It's not that it's gotten. I mean, it has gotten worse in the last few years, and it's only been getting worse every time the Olympics has come up, winter and summer. And so, at a time when we thought we had nailed this streaming thing, at a time when we all thought like, hey, this is the way to do it, like not just NBC, I you know, as much shade as I want to throw their way for all of their coverage, the other app that everybody's having real issues with is there was a lot of people that bought into YouTube TV specifically so that they would have access to a lot of things like NBC, but also other sports networks and things that were going to be covering lesser known stuff, right? And they're having issues there too. Like they're finding that they spent their $100 for the month on YouTube TV with the intention of probably canceling it after anyway, but just being livid that they're not getting the thing that they kind of felt like they were promised. And it's weird because on the one hand, like I don't pay attention to Peacock as much as maybe I should for doing the show, but I haven't heard a lot of like promises being made by them that like this was going to be the thing that was going to help you with the Olympics. So maybe people were hearing a promise that wasn't really truly being given, but you'd expect it, I guess, right? Like, and it's fair to expect it.
I mean, you bring up the fact that people are having issues with Peacock. That surprises me. Because I did see some fervor for the best Olympics coverage. Make sure you're on Peacock.
Yeah,
I saw that like my parents were watching America's Got Talent, and that was one of the commercials that played, you know, every commercial break that came up.
Yeah.
And so that surprised me, but it also surprises me because Peacock, for all the jibs and jabs we give it at the Say Report, it does one thing really interesting and actually kind of cool, which is it sort of mirrors television channels. In this way, where like you can go to channels and they have set up specific, I'm going to put on this channel, and then I don't need to worry about what's coming up next, right?
That is interesting.
They're still going to give me programming. IMDb TV does something like that as well. And we need to do a dive into IMDb TV, but I'm not ready to do that right now. I don't know if I'll ever truly be ready to do it, but it's something to discuss later on down the line for us.
You know, considering they've started actually posting our written synopses for the Adam Sandler Cinematic
Yeah,
Universe, I think
that's
we owe it to them.
a little bit, yes. Yeah, so if you've been listening to Adam Sandler Cinematic Universe, brief plug for our other show, the synopses that I read during the episodes are going up on IMDb. Specifically, I know for a fact Hubie Halloween is up there, but if you see a synopsis and it's long-winded and has interesting bits of trivia related to the plot, it's probably written by us, and we're talking about that. But it is one of those things where Peacock has that channel set up, and that, to me, as someone who has programmed for, like, not network, I don't know how to say it, like, cable networks on, like, a college campus, right? When I was working on Carnival, I saw how they set up their, like, onboard entertainment and what goes into that. And it's literally scheduled the same sort of way that a television network schedules their shows. And they do that for, like, 3-4 channels. And one of the ways that they handled the World Cup, because I was on the sea 2010 during the World Cup, they just bought a bunch of feeds from, you know, the World Cup people, and the live raw feed could just be viewed on the channels. So you didn't have the score or anything like that, but you could actually just watch the game. And for a lot of people, that's all they really care about. Yeah. And for NBC, who is somebody who has the exclusive rights to the Olympics in America, right? Like, that's sort of the only feather in their cap they have right now. Like, they've had the Olympics forever. And I feel like it has to do with something with Bob Costas that I'm not, like, ready to deep dive into ever.
I mean, he's the Ryan Seacrest of NBC Sports, really, is what it is. But
I think he did something to get the Olympics.
He killed a man. Yeah, I mean, like, they lost kind of their Thursday night comedy like boon, right? Like they had they had that
Must
kind
See
of
TV was
for years, but they don't really have that anymore, right?
Yeah. So it's one of those situations where they got America's Got Talent. They kind of have live entertainment. That's what NBC comes to. And they are getting those same feeds, those same raw feeds that, you know, the cruise line was getting 11 years ago. And then they're taking that footage and they're packaging it in a way that can be presented to their audience. But if you also have something like Peacock, why not set up some of those channels to be raw feed of gymnastics, raw feed of swimming? And then you can just watch it. And if it's about the competition, that's really all that I would need. And then you're driving me to go watch later the package of stuff so I can see what pundits have to say about the competition that is going on.
Yeah. And all of this is to say that, like, I am also just not watching it either. So, like, I don't I'm going to just, you know, point out that this has been a thing that has been ongoing for years. I'm going to point out that this is a definite thing that's going on right now. But at the end of the day, I don't even really have a man in this fight, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I just was thinking about the fact that once I saw the protests in Tokyo for people like, please don't do this. Yeah. And then you see the facts at, like, the numbers in Tokyo being higher than when the games were postponed a year ago. It boggles my mind that you would be like, well, we have to have them. Right?
Yeah. And Japan is not an irresponsible country. Like, this is the thing that like, I know that there's always conversation about, like, how Japan is one of those countries, and America is right up there with them, that likes to present itself to the world, but it definitely has its own inner turmoil that is going on, right? Like, there's always this idea that it is glorified outside of Japan by a lot of people for a lot of reasons. You know, in the States, there's a lot of entertainment that comes from them that we put on a pedestal, and a lot of people are like, yeah, it's great, but, you know, remember that these animators that are animating these animes that y'all know and love are also killing themselves in droves because they're being forced to work 80 hours a week. Like, you know, like that kind of, there's always been that kind of back and forth conversation about, like, the great things that come out of Japan. There's always somebody there to remind you that there is some stuff in their society that is also kind of troubling, right? And so, like, it's not that like I think that it's like this perfect nation, but seeing the amount of people that are like, we can't do this right now, and them not listening to those people has actually kind of thrown me for a loop. I am thoroughly surprised because, as you said, like with the numbers being worse than they even were a year ago, with the number of people there being like, please don't do this, don't come, like this is not the right time, with the number of predominant people being there and being like, this is a bad idea. I am completely thrown that there was not more of an effort made to again replan things. It seems like, to be honest, it seems like such an America style move to fucking push on through and have the games anyway. I just was not expecting it. I was not.
I mean, it's becoming the international move.
Yeah.
Freedom Day in the UK last Monday, and Boris Johnson saying, if we don't lift COVID restrictions now, then when will we ever? Like, what?
When it's done,
Later, when it's
yeah,
time, when it's appropriate. We don't just lift the restrictions and the mask mandates because we're tired of them. No, we have to wait until it's a world where we can have those things again. And really, it feels like deja vu all over again. And I hate that phrase. But the way I am mentally right now feels exactly how I felt a year ago. And it's exhausting.
yeah.
I am exhausted continuing to live in this whole like just pandemic ecosystem, not really knowing what's going to happen.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, like, I don't want to get doom and gloom, especially
No.
for
We
the
should,
whole episode.
yeah.
But I will say that just not 3-4 hours ago at work, water cooler conversation with some friends of mine, although it was, a virtual one nonetheless. But like the idea that, Utah is probably going to have to go back to lockdowns and mask mandates in a couple of weeks here, and it's going to feel a lot like a year ago. Hopefully this time around things will be a little bit shorter and a little less scary as far as like numbers go, just because of like the number of vaccinations and people taking it seriously this time, stuff like that. You hope, fingers crossed. But the idea that we are having the same conversations that we were a year and a half ago is mind-boggling, because it's not they're still going on. It's the idea that we had these conversations. I thought we all came to an agreement on these conversations. We did it for a while, and now suddenly here we are, just like you said, like deja vu. Like, what is happening? I remember saying these exact words to you last time, jerks. Like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah. All right. So it's just it. And the Olympics, they are a natural reflection point for me. And then like reflecting back on everything, it's just like, but I can't do it. I just can't do it this year. And that's enough for doom and gloom. Let's try to zhoosh the conversation. Did you hear about Activision Blizzard? I kid. I fucking kid. It is an awful thing that is going on there. That lawsuit that has been levied against them. Read it and understand that it is a huge problem in gaming culture. That is like, we knew it from Ubisoft, now we know it from Activision Blizzard. It's just not great. But no, let's actually talk about something.
Yeah, no, and full support for everybody there that is trying to fight this thing right now, because fight like for the people there.
Yeah.
Like Activision Blizzard has fostered a environment that is unacceptable for their workers, and like, just, man. But yeah, so what do you do when the world is kind of going crazy again? Like what do you do?
Well, what I did was celebrate the 36th anniversary of The Legend of Billie Jean. Are you familiar with this film? Have you ever seen this movie?
Oh my god. So short answer is no. I'm gonna let you take the lead on this. But
Okay.
This is the kind of movie that, like, this is the movie where when I would talk about like Trolls 2 and The Room and that sort of stuff, and then like, in the next breath talk about how much I love like Purple Rain and things like that, people would bring this movie up. And I don't know, it's been one of those ones that's always been just on the periphery of possibly being like a B movie night, but never quite landing that for me. So I've always assumed it's too good for that, but not good enough to be held in any other conversation.
So again, the Deckers have been doing Saturday Classics, and it's one of my father's favorite films. Legend of Billie Jean is one of my father's, if it is on, we're watching it films.
Okay, so this
But
is not like new to you guys.
no, but I had never seen it all the way through.
Okay.
Thought this movie was one very specific thing because of one very specific scene I've seen like 80 or 90 times. And then every time he's like, yeah, this is a good movie. And I'm like, I'd like to watch it from the beginning one day. And he's like, no, we'll just watch it from here. We'll catch it at the beginning some other time. And I've
Says in a house with a DVR, but yeah, okay.
well, a lot of the time, Siege, it was before we had a DVR.
Right.
Just being honest about the situation. But it is one of those things. So a couple of years back, they put out a Blu-ray release that is basically just the movie. The fact that it is called The Legend of Billie Jean Fair is Fair Edition is hilarious to me. Because all you get is the movie and a commentary. It's not like some big deal. And I think it's gone now. Like, I bought it because my father loves this movie. I've always wanted to see it. It is currently $10 on Amazon. Let's just scoop it up and watch it one day. So that one day was this past Saturday. And The Legend of Billie Jean is the most 80s movie that has ever existed. It is like, it's made in 1985. They sat down and said, what are the tropes that work in movies for the past 5 years? Let's put them all into this movie and just let the shekels rain down upon us.
Oh, man.
I loved this movie. I loved every minute of this film. And what that might just prove is that Dennis Decker is my biological father. That just, let's put to bed all of the rumors that Bryan Adams is my actual dad. I don't know where they came from, but they started about 10 years ago, and I don't know why. But it's Dennis Decker, no doubt in my mind, because I don't think Bryan Adams would like this movie very much.
Now, wait a fucking minute.
Yeah, what's up?
I'm trying to get kind of caught up so that I can keep up with this conversation, as I often do when we do these things. You know that I will kind of like putter and look shit up, right?
Yeah.
I am so thrown for a goddamn loop by the Wikipedia page of this, this movie.
That's not surprising.
Give me a lowdown of what the plot of this film is.
So, all right. Billie Jean and her brother Binks, portrayed by Helen and Christian Slater, no relation, despite this film making everybody think they were related. Christian Slater and Helen Slater are not related. They're brothers and their brother and sister. They live in Corpus Christi, Texas, and one day there's a confrontation. Yep.
Helen Slater being the
titular Billie Jean. Yes.
yeah. Okay.
They go to a drive-in on her brother Binks's Honda Elite scooter.
Yeah.
And some rich kids, right? The Boys of Summer, if you really needed to like think of a song to think of these characters, they're the Boys of Summer from Don Henley's song. They come over and they're giving shit to Binks about his scooter and how it's not something that a man would drive, but while also simultaneously hitting on Billie Jean. And she throws a milkshake in the face of their leader, Hubie, and then they run away down to the swimming hole because it's so goddamn hot in Corpus Christi, Texas. While they're at the swimming hole, Hubie and the gang show up and steal Binks's scooter. And then Binks is like, I'm going to go get my scooter back. They beat the shit out of him and trash his scooter. So the next day, Billie Jean goes to the souvenir shop that is owned by his father with an estimate from a mechanic, and it's going to cost $608 to repair the damage done to the scooter. Which, that's not bad. That seems like a reasonable amount of money in 2021. But in 1985, might as well say $1 billion. Right? So she very, like, professionally presents it to Hubie as, this is what you owe us for the scooter. Just pay it, and we'll put this whole ugliness behind us. But then Hubie's father comes home, comes back into the store, and he's like, well, you owe her the money, Hubie. Come on, girl. You're going to have to come upstairs to the office. I don't keep this much money in the cash register. And then he tries to rape Billie Jean. Billie Jean gets away without being raped by Hubie's father. And meanwhile, Christian Slater and her friend Ophelia have come into the store wondering what's taking her so long and find in the cash register a handgun. So then as this guy's chasing Billie Jean, Christian Slater holds a gun on him and he's like, "You're going to let her go." And he's like, "It's not loaded, you idiot." And then Christian Slater shoots him in the arm.
Okay.
So now Billie Jean, Binks, Ophelia, and Yeardley Smith, the voice of Lisa Simpson, playing Putter, go on the run because they're like, we're kids, and already nobody believes us that, because they go to the police with the scooter has been stolen, and Peter Coyote, Keys from E.T., is like, we can't do anything for 48 hours, but I bet you that that scooter's going to show up right back in your house before Friday. And then that night it showed and it's just destroyed. So like, we can't get any help from the cops, right? The cops already took this dude's side. Now we've shot somebody. The only recourse we have is to go on the run. So they go on the run.
So just to keep up on the Wikipedia page, out of what is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs, you have only hit the end of paragraph 3.
Oh yeah, because that's like the thing. So they go off into the world, and then when they realize, you know, everything that's going on, they contact Peter Coyote's character, and they're like, "Look, we want to turn ourselves in. All we want is the $608. That's it. We'll turn ourselves in. We'll explain what happened." And I mean, like at the end of the day, Billie Jean has a legitimate complaint because this adult male tried to force himself on her. Like, that's a real thing.
Shooting him in the shoulder is at the very least defense,
right?
Exactly.
It's definitely self-defense, right? But also they're kids. They don't know any better, right? And they've already seen that the police don't want to give them the time of day. Like, it's sort of a perfect storm. So they go to the mall to make the exchange, but the guy that they shot, Hubie's dad, he has other plans in mind. So he tries to have Hubie grab her so that they can get real justice. And she ends up causing a sort of like ruckus in the mall, right? And she becomes a kind of folk hero for her actions at the mall. And then because of this, people are saying that they robbed their liquor store and all this other stuff. So now like they're really wanted fugitives all over the state of Texas, and there's nowhere that they can go. They're driving through a posh neighborhood, like a rich neighborhood, and they see a house where the lights are not on. It looks like it's abandoned. So they're like, we'll just go in there for the night and we'll make a plan. And we'll figure out what we're going to do. Turns out the house is not empty, but another boy their age is there because his father is away on business. He's dressed as a werewolf. So you also get the trope of werewolf from the 80s. Like, for real, I thought, oh my God, there's a goddamn werewolf in this movie. And they've walked into the werewolf's house. It's just the werewolf scene in Billie Jean. And it's played by Keith Gordon, who his most famous role is as Rodney Dangerfield's son in Back to School. But this came out prior to that. And then he goes on to become a big like director and everything. So Keith Gordon is like, you know, I can make videos. And while they're with Keith Gordon at this house, they watched the Joan of Arc movie from 1957, like it's just on cable. And Billie Jean likens herself to a modern day Joan of Arc. And she's like, I'm going to rally the people up against this dude who tried to rape me and who owes me $608. So she cuts her hair to look like Joan of Arc. And when also Keith Gordon's character, I can't think of his character name, and it's really upsetting to me. He is a filmmaker, and also in addition to Lloyd, okay, Lloyd Dobler. That's what I kept referring to him as because he's very similar to Lloyd Dobler in look. He looks like a bargain basement John Cusack. No offense, Keith Gordon. I'm sure you're a lovely man, but in this film, that's the vibe you're sending out, and your name is Lloyd. But yeah, so he's also got a bunch of costumes in addition to his werewolf costume. So Billie Jean puts on this kick-ass fucking warrior outfit and makes a videotape saying that, like, these are the facts as it stands. This kid stole my brother's bike, trashed it, beat him up, and then I tried to get the money, and this guy tried to force himself, and he accidentally got shot. But, like, all we want is the $608. We'll turn ourselves in. Fair is fair. And
Can I point out that you keep saying that all they want is that money, but at this point, that is insane because as far as I know from what you've told me, the bike's fucked.
the bike is, I can't believe it's only $608 to repair the bike. The
But
bike,
but but the fact that the bike is just destroyed earlier makes no sense.
I know. I mean, it's like, it's going to say $608 to fix it. I mean, let's be honest, that mechanic is probably also going to screw them. If we want to just be honest about it. Because the dumb kids, they don't know any better. So fair is fair. And they go out and she becomes an even larger folk hero. And there are people rooting for her and people rooting against her. And she realizes, and Lloyd is like, you're going to need a hostage so that you can negotiate. So he kidnaps himself to join them on their little road trip through Texas, trying to figure out what we're going to do next. Turns out that Lloyd's father is the assistant district attorney for the state of Texas. So Lloyd has done that to try to get his attention because he is more he's more intent on getting elected to, attorney general of the state of Texas than on his son. It just goes off the rails. And then, she turns in Ophelia and Putter because she's like, they need to get out of this. It's not really their problem. It's my problem. So she turns them in. And then, all the girls in the state of Texas start cutting their hair to look like Billie Jean. So then everybody thinks that, oh, that's Billie Jean. Oh, no, it's not Billie Jean. I am Spartacus type shit. And then there's a scene where they're going to steal a car to go back to Corpus Christi to turn themselves in. And that's when they all get separated. And Binks and Lloyd go off on their own. And this absurd fucking montage, that's brilliant. I call it absurd, but it is the most brilliant bit of filmmaking ever of Billie Jean going through an underground railroad of supporters taking her across Texas and her swapping cars as ever they get close to roadblocks that are in place. It's nuts. The movie is 136 minutes of pure insanity, and
You've
love
only gotten to the end of paragraph 4.
I've only gotten to the end of paragraph 4. Okay, so
paragraph 5 is what throws me for a goddamn loop.
Oh, okay. So if I've only gotten to the end of paragraph 4, Billie Jean contacts Keyes, Peter Coyote, and says, "Here's what we're gonna do for the exchange of Lloyd and me, right? I'll give Lloyd back, and you can have me. We're going to have Billie Jean Day at the beach." And so everybody comes down to the beach at Corpus Christi. And also the guy who tried to rape her the whole time, he's making money both coming and going because he's selling fucking Billie Jean merchandise and memorabilia. Because he's a fucking asshole. So Billie Jean Day comes, right? And they're there, and Billie Jean comes as soon as the scooter is revealed, right? Because all they want back is the fucking scooter. That's their main driving force in this film, is to get the scooter repaired. Once it's revealed that the scooter is there, Billie Jean and Lloyd come out, and there are sharpshooters there because the assistant district attorney's like, I want all sorts of things. So when Billie Jean comes out with a gun, they shoot Billie Jean. But then it's revealed to be Christian Slater dressed up as Billie Jean.
Now, here's where I got super confused, because the exact line currently on Wikipedia is Billie Jean runs to catch the ambulance that begins to take Binks away, but they don't make it. And I thought they meant Binks doesn't, Binks dies.
No, Binks lives. He gets shot in the shoulder,
next
too.
Line.
But they don't make it to the ambulance.
Next line is they talk about Binks running away with an arm sling on. And I'm just like, wait a minute. I thought we just found out he died.
No. Binks lives. The weird thing, what I thought it was going to be is that it ends with a huge effigy of Billie Jean burning, a la Joan of Arc, and everybody throwing the dirty memorabilia from the dude who tried to rape her into the fire. To be
he does eventually admit to what he did. I'm seeing here, so
yeah, well, he doesn't admit to what he did. She fucking calls him out in front of it. And he's like, you would have taken that money. And she's like, I don't want your dirty fucking money. And she throws $1,000 at the guy. And he's like, you know. And it starts a fire and whatever. And then that burns everything down. And then at the end, Billie Jean and Binks are in Vermont. And Binks looks at a Yamaha sled, which is a snowmobile for people who don't know that's nomenclature for snowmobiles.
About on the same level as a Honda.
Yeah,
Honda
that it looks
motorbike.
exactly like a Honda Elite. Like it's got
Yeah.
the same color and everything, but it's a snowmobile. And then it's like, oh, here we go again. But but it ends, and it's really good. It's definitely a movie worth watching. I would recommend anybody check it out. Even like I have not covered everything. There are some more absurd things in it. But you know what Billie Jean did? The one thing that Billie Jean did to make me upset. I'm mad at Pat Benatar now.
Okay, all right. I do see that she's like highlighted on the soundtrack.
So in 2010, someone gifted me a CD copy of the very best of Pat Benatar.
Okay.
And the 10th track on this 13-track album is Invincible, theme from The Legend of Billie Jean.
Yep.
And I fucking love that song. From that, like, it's just a great song. So in addition to my father being like, it's a great movie, you need to watch it someday, I have this song. And Invincible, pause this show right now, right? You're probably listening on Spotify or something. Pause the show, go listen to Invincible as performed by Pat Benatar, and then come back to us. Here I would usually wait the 3 minutes and 43 seconds, but we're recording. I'm not actually going to wait 3 minutes and 43 seconds for you to come back. But go listen to Invincible, come back, so that you can truly understand just how fucking good this song is. And then, it's one of those songs that they get their money's worth from. Like, riffs from it exist in the score, in all of these beautiful moments. Like, it really feels like it's part of this movie. It's this movie's heart. And Pat Benatar did not write it, she only performs it. And come to find out, I don't know if it's on the Wikipedia page, but it's definitely on the IMDb. And then I've found proof that this is a real thing that happens. Whenever she performs Invincible at one of her concerts, she starts by yelling, "Here's a song from the worst movie ever made." Like, fuck you, Pat Benatar.
So there's a couple of things about this movie that I do have like some like passing memories of. First of all, the big thing for me is I remember the poster, because the major video near me for years when I was growing up, it was one of the posters that they had up. So her specifically in the cutoff swimsuit that she wears
In the first scene of the movie and never again.
Is that it, where it's like
Yeah.
the wetsuit with no arms? Yeah,
But it
well,
makes
like,
perfect sense that
Yeah.
would be the poster, because have you seen that poster is a big part of the whole story. So it's one of those things where we're building the folk legend of Billie Jean even in the marketing. Someone
Yeah.
fucking had to love themselves for that
Yeah,
idea. Sorry.
So I remember that. And the other big thing is that I was born a year or two later, right? Like,
Yeah.
no, a year later. I think
You were
it's-
2 years later, yeah.
And Billy Idol's Rebel Yell being on the soundtrack for this movie, it showed up amongst my mom and all of her friends like cassettes. So like everywhere I went, I was listening to the soundtrack for this movie, so I'm very familiar with Invincible and Pat Benatar. But the other big song that I remember off of this soundtrack is Rebel Yell. This was my introduction to Rebel Yell and Billy Idol.
And that's the whole mall sequence, which is really
Oh,
where the
man.
legend of Billie Jean catches fire for the entire state of Texas.
I can definitely understand why it comes up in the same vein as something like The Room, though, in terms of the evolution of story. And there are very few movies that can kind of get away with just the consistent just changing of storyline. Because Jesus, there's like 8 stories crammed into one in this story.
But it all works when you're watching it together. But it's when you like step back from it where you're like, how the hell did we get here? How is this all just Texas? I mean, Texas is its own country. We all know that, especially people from Texas. And I actually think that one of the reasons why my father likes this film so much is because he grew up in Texas, right? It was his senior year when he moved to Rhode Island. And so seeing this movie, let me do the math in my head real quick. 15 years later, like it reminded him of home. So I think in some weird way, The Legend of Billie Jean always reminds my father of home, like where he grew up, his child. It's nostalgia for my father in this way that like isn't just he liked that movie when he saw it, but his actual childhood.
By the way, don't go to Dean Stockwell's Wikipedia page. The picture they put up there, you know how there's any picture of Tommy Lee Jones, he looks like he's the grumpiest man on earth.
Yeah.
This looks like this is Tommy Lee Jones' grandfather.
I don't doubt. I mean, Dean Stockwell showed up, and I'm like, Al! And Avocado looked at me, and I'm like, why am I the only one in this house who knows Quantum Leap?
And that is a crime
Like,
in that house. I gotta say that knowing that this is your dad's favorite movie ever,
not his favorite movie ever. His favorite movie ever
opinions about your father
is one of those. It's a movie that he will always watch. His favorite movie ever. He will tell you that it's Patton. In truth, it's probably Apollo 13, but then in actuality, it's School of Rock. And all of them big Texas influences, all those movies. Just being honest about it. But yeah,
Apollo 13 is a perfect movie. Like I'm never gonna have an argument with anybody that says that's their favorite movie.
Yeah, I mean that's a movie. When Apollo 13, I mean, A Few Good Men is up there too. Like there were movies in the 90s that we owned, and because we owned them, we watched them a bunch when there was nothing else on. So it's just one of those things that happens. He also really likes another movie that is the same as this film for him is The Chase from 1993 with Charlie Sheen and Christy Swanson.
Yeah.
To the fact that my mother, when she's like, I'm not going to watch The Legend of Billie Jean with you guys, I'm going to go upstairs and read. I'm like, that's fine. But then she like we started it while she was still downstairs, and she ended up sitting and watching the whole movie. And then at the end going, yeah, so I thought that this was The Chase that you were going to watch, not The Legend of Billie Jean. I've never seen this movie before.
The only thing I remember about The Chase is it has a really weird sex scene in the middle of it where they have sex while they're driving.
The real thing that you should remember about The Chase is that Anthony Kiedis and Flea play like just two random dudes in a monster truck who try to take them down.
Of course.
I mean, that's a movie. The Chase is a movie that one day we might need to look into on this particular show. I would not make you do Billie Jean. That's for a different project relating to me. I wouldn't put you through it. This is the most I would put you through that. I didn't expect you to go to Wikipedia and then me having to figure out the craziest thing, which is that, Binks is shot by a sharpshooter in the arm for no reason, really. Like, they're turning themselves in. And then
that's wild.
They're gonna shoot him.
Holy crap, man!
Yeah,
I'm glad that you got to see a really cool like female-led film though, like that for one of your classics. Like,
oh yeah, these classics have been it's been really fun going to them. The one before that was Logan because my mother had never seen it, and it just comes up all the time. But we specifically watched the Logan Noir version. So the all black and white one,
yeah, all right,
that totally gives that film more gravitas. It's so good. I mean, that movie's good anyway, but oh my god, it's so good.
Yeah, no, the black and white one. I mean, like I think the director said that it was what he always kind of had wanted for it.
Yeah,
which makes sense because a lot of the imagery that they use in it are straight out of the Old Man Logan comics, which a lot of those were black and white. So I mean, it's
also heavily influenced by like Shane.
Yeah,
and that's black and white as well. So it led like another layer to it. And yeah, I mean, Logan's great. If you still haven't seen Logan, or if you haven't seen Logan since it came out, revisit Logan. It's worth your time.
I really want to. Man, I don't know if I can put myself through that. Like, I remember being like so emotionally hit by that film and like not in a way that is any worse or better than some other films, right? Like, it's not like I think it's like the saddest movie ever made or anything like that. It's just very specific in the ways in which it hits, especially as like a guy growing up. Like, it's kind of hard, like I sit here being only 32, but still, like there's this concepts behind it that I personally struggle with as a human, which is like all credit to the movie. It's the fact that they do it so well that makes it so hard for me to rewatch.
Yeah, I think it was, so my mother, sitting with her like 3 days later, and this was where I'm like, Logan is a good movie. Logan is a good movie objectively because of the conversation I had with my mother where she said, why did Caliban have to die? and I'm like, oh, wow, that is a statement that like I understand what spoilers for Logan just because, right? Maybe you've
Yeah.
never seen it or maybe it's been a while. Like she's like, I understand why Professor Xavier, like why Charles Xavier dies, and I get that it's like Logan's swan song and why he ends up dead in the end. But like Caliban, like it just sucks because he hasn't lived the lives that they've lived. He just feels like this collateral damage, and I look at my mother and I'm like, so like that's why it's a good
I
movie.
mean, look at the father and son that they.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Like
yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, the
So
father and
Logan
son
and
when Wolverine is 100 years older than Charles Xavier, but like that that nonagenarian line is
yeah,
great, where he's like, I'm in my 90s, and then I'm thinking that like, and for most of it, Wolverine acts like he's his son in that
yeah,
film, but it's like,
yeah.
but Wolverine was born in 1832.
Hmm.
Like that's his date of birth. So he's 193 when he dies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's awesome. It's really interesting that you bring up Logan randomly, because I had an interesting conversation with somebody this weekend about the idea of not kids in peril so much as kids in like, well, I guess traumatic peril would be the way that I would put it, because there's never really a moment in that movie where you really feel like she's the child, which is what the whole movie is about them realizing that if they're gonna go out, they're gonna go out doing something good, and that's taking care of this girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the ways in which she is clearly going to be traumatized by what happens, and then not just her but the other children that they end up finding towards the end, right? They're all going to be kind of traumatized by those events. And somebody was explaining to me that like that for them that's sometimes harder to watch than just like a kid just being straight up just like kidnapped, like I think of like what's the beginning of like, is it Last Action Hero or whatever it
Yeah,
is?
Last Action Hero. Yeah,
Yeah, right. Like kids being kidnapped for a moment, but then the hero comes in and saves them, and then you never see that kid again. That's goofy fun. That like you don't really think about that child as like a human or a person. But when the movie so heavily focuses on like a child character that is involved in these events, that's when it gets really hard for them. And the reason this came up is that I no joke, unexpectedly and happily ended up watching Gunpowder Milkshake 3 times this weekend. Oh man, do you know anything about the new
I
Netflix release?
I've heard about it. I haven't gotten a chance to see it yet. I feel like I have so many Netflix shows to watch, and now that I'm not watching the Olympics, I'm gonna have time to check almost all of them out. But movie wise, this weekend, I finally caught up on Let Him Go, and
Okay.
that sort of like, and then I just kind of stayed in bed all day Sunday, just
No, yeah.
contemplating the
So
world.
So I've been kind of waiting for Gunpowder to come out for a while. Like,
Yeah.
it had me hooked from the get-go. The visuals, the cast, Karen Gillian, like I was in. And the unabashed like female focus. I was just like, you got me. I'm sold. So when it came out when it came out early last week, I had actually watched it like during work, so like on and off, watched it in like 15, 20-minute increments, loved the hell out of it. And then Friday night, roommate, like Hannah was just like, hey, so I asked my wife if she would watch this movie with me, and she said, this sounds more like a movie for you and Siegen to watch. So, also, I think I saw him watching it yesterday. so maybe you should ask him. And so she's like, do you mind if, like, would you mind watching it again? And I was like, hell yeah, I'll watch it again. Also, I didn't get to watch it in, like, one sitting. So I was like, let's put it on the big screen with the surround sound and let me enjoy the hell out of this movie again. And we loved it. So I'd seen it twice then, right? And then all of a sudden, Sunday morning, I have a standing like hangout with a friend of mine that's long distance. So what we normally do is like we'll hang out and watch like Loki, or we watched all of WandaVision and stuff like that, right? So we finished Loki and we weren't sure what we were going to start again this week. And she's like, actually, I've been kind of looking at Gunpowder Milkshake. And I was like, funny enough, I was like, I've seen it a couple of times already. And she's like, would you mind watching it a third time? I was like, hell no, let's do it. So, and she was the one that I ended up, we watched the movie, and she's like, man, it's super cool. It has a lot of great stuff in it, but she couldn't bring herself to get past the idea that there is this girl that is there the whole time that the story revolves around. And she's like, this girl's going to be fucked up. And part of the deal is that there's a lot of things going on in this movie. Without getting too deep into stuff, I don't want to ruin it for anybody that hasn't seen it yet, because it is so fresh and it is totally worth it. But it it's a movie that relishes in paying homage to like the all sorts of stuff. I mean, the first thing everybody's going to compare it to is John Wick, because there's a lot of really cool stuff in that. There's like these secret societies of assassins and all this sort of stuff going on. On top of that, there's a lot of Drive in it, very blatantly. These homages are in there, so there's scenes in like neon, and she ends up in a cool jacket and like halfway through the movie. But there's Hitchcock references, there's a Baby Driver style moments. There's all of this really cool like older movie to newer action movie stuff going on. I mean, I could even point to like Matrix-y style stuff that happens in it too, right? So in that, like the idea of the kid that gets saved, that they have to the whole time take care of, and in the end ends up kind of on their team, like that's nothing new to the genres, right? Like that's going on. And so there's this aspect of like they story-wise make it a point where every time like major violence happens around the child, somebody there clearly cares enough about the kid to like close her eyes, put their hands over her ears. Like it happens multiple times with multiple different characters taking care of this child. So they make it such a point to try and guard her from this, that it's a fair critique that at the end of this they didn't do anything. like the whole story is about them trying to stop this cycle of violence with what's going on with this young girl, and be like, she's not gonna be stuck in the same like violent circles with these violent people that we are all dealing with. She is gonna be the one that gets out. But then at the end of the movie, she hasn't really. Like you're just like, oh, wait a minute, and so it's one of those things where you can definitely levy that against this story. Like there's plenty of criticism to go around with some of the stuff in it. But that being said, it didn't stop me from watching it 3 times this weekend.
I wish I knew more about it. I would have checked it out.
There's some really cool visual stuff, some really cool story stuff. So like people should check it out. Like I have not rewatched a movie this often, this fast since like 300 when it came out, and I accidentally saw it 8 times in theaters.
How many times did you see it the first day?
Oh, only like once the first day.
Okay.
It was just that for like 2 weeks consistently, different people were like, "Hey, I was thinking about seeing 300. Are you interested?"
And
like
went,
one day, one day it was like a Tuesday, so it was only $5. The next day, like it was somebody offering to pay for me. The next day it was my family. The next day it was a girlfriend's family. Like, so I just kept going.
Yeah, it was 300. Just living in that moment. I had a standing date with a friend to go see movies on Friday mornings, back when they showed movies at like 10 o'clock at the Showcase Cinema in Warwick. So we went and we saw 300, and then I went up to, then they dropped me off at URI because I had whatever going on. Probably, it was, I think, February when they came out. So it was probably the whatever the winter show was, or the early spring show was. And I got to campus, and then they're like, "Hey, Devin, we're all going to see 300. You want to come?" And like these were stranger people to me, right? Like we were all in the department, but I didn't know them, and I'm like, "I'll need a ride," and they're like, "Yeah." So I went and I just saw 300 again with a bunch of stranger people, and that was awesome, and it really laid the foundational groundwork for that time that I saw TMNT 3 times the same day. And I don't know statute of limitations, but I definitely just flashed my ticket stub from the first showing the next 2 times and was let into the theater.
Yeah, one of those times for 300 was more than assuredly one of our random Tuesdays. Maybe you were there, maybe you weren't, but we used to go like every Tuesday to the 5 or Thursday to the $5 showings, and like then sneak into 2 other movies, one other movie that night. So I think I saw it along with I don't know, like The Queen or something.
Yeah, some culture and 300.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that was one of those films that like it stirred you up, and I get it, and I'm glad like just the name Gunpowder Milkshake puts me in that same mindset for it.
Yeah.
So that I'm very excited to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's definitely, there's been some discussion around whether it's too goofy for its own good, but I feel like that's kind of the point. So, and when I say there's been some discussion around it that way, I don't even mean critically. As far as I can tell, a lot of people are loving it critically. I just mean like amongst my friends that have checked it out or have been hesitant to check it out because they're just like, I don't know, that just seems like it's a little too much for me. And like it's the same way that like I had to kind of talk some of my friends into watching Kingsman with me the first time because they were just like, it just seems like it's just relishing in some silliness. And I was like, I mean, it is, but that's not a bad thing, right? And like that's the conversation, right? Is like, yeah, man, like it's a fun time. It's a movie for movie people. And I hate ever telling somebody that's not a movie person to watch those movies because very often they feel like they're kind of not in on the joke. But I think this is much like I think Kingsman was that same way with like Bond and Bourne and stuff like that. The ways in which this movie kind of points to the best in those types of films and still makes itself a really good one of those films. I mean, like it feels like it's in that same vein as like a Shaun of the Dead, right? Where it's clearly making fun of the tropes and the silliness of the zombie like movie while at the same time being a phenomenal zombie film. It's that same feeling as you watch this. Is like, oh, there's like the neo-noir style of everything from Drive to what was the one that came out from Drew Stoddard a while back that only like you and I saw, Bad Times at the El Royale, I think is the full name of it.
That makes me
Like,
sad thinking about that movie that I saw in theaters three times.
but I feel like these people watched that movie,
Good.
and you know what I mean, like that kind of it's that kind of feeling of like mystery and just cool visual style that just makes it just rad.
Cool. I'd like to transition over to something, but to end the movie portion of this episode,
Yeah.
I'd like to remind everybody that The Suicide Squad, comes out on August 5th, and you should rewatch Suicide Squad. It's what I did immediately before we started recording today, because my mother's like, I want to watch the new one. I feel like I should see the old one. And
Wrong,
a lot.
but okay.
And was that?
She's probably wrong, but that's okay.
I was right there with you. That was my same thought process until I realized, maybe a spoiler, but whatever. Amanda Waller, Viola Davis, is going to be in the Suicide Squad.
Mm-hmm.
And what Suicide Squad is for everything is an origin story for Amanda Waller.
Sure.
And if she's going to be part of the connective tissue along with Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, I feel like maybe go back and watch Suicide Squad.
Yeah, no. As somebody that enjoyed their time with Suicide Squad, we talked. I think we talked about this before. I don't dislike that movie in the ways that some people out there do. And as far as DC movies go, I think it's top notch in that realm. I just don't think if you don't have the time to watch it, don't not see the new one.
Yeah, that's a perfect public service announcement. But I guess it's aged so much better than I thought it would.
Yeah.
Is what I'm gonna say. As someone who only saw it in theaters on opening night and then like never went back to it, I didn't hate it. I was disappointed that Slipknot didn't get more like jokes made about the fact that he dies.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing. And still, but then like not focusing on that and like watching the film, it does a lot of world building for the DCEU that I kind of took for granted. Every time that I've seen like the Justice League movie.
Yeah,
Like,
and you're somebody that enjoys the Justice League movies. For me, it does a lot of world building for a thing that never came to fruition. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that feels kind of hollow to me. Like, you're not wrong. It did do a lot of legwork for like a thing that then fell to pieces anyway. So like to me, that just makes me sad. But you know, like I said, I enjoy the movie and I think it's a great time. You're not wrong. Like the stuff about Amanda Waller alone is definitely worth it. Margot Robbie, if you really want some good like background work to get Harley Quinn, go see Birds of Prey.
Go see Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
That is the one that definitely see Birds of Prey before you see the Suicide Squad. If you have the time, rewatch the first Suicide Squad. You know, I couldn't believe how watchable it was, considering the fervor and the way that people treat it.
I mean, it's Margot Robbie and Will Smith, two very watchable people, and not in their first outing together.
Second,
Also,
their second.
oh,
Focus came first. Focus came in 2015.
Okay. Yeah, but either way, go see Focus as well. That's
God,
a whole
Focus
that's a whole
is so
other
good.
recommendation.
Focus is a whole other discussion.
Yeah,
about movies that are one movie and then another movie, right along with Stripes, and we just talked about another one that became a different movie halfway through. Well, Billie Jean, yeah.
Billie Jean becomes a different movie apparently every 10
Every
seconds.
10 minutes, it's a new movie.
Oh, man.
You get 9 movies for the price of one movie, and they're all 80s-tastic.
That's rad. So what else is going on, man?
I'd like to swivel to gaming just a little bit. And it's
So
up,
out of character.
No, right?
Yes.
Where do you want to go? A or B? I have two things I want to talk about.
What's on my left? A or
Well,
B?
well, left is where my A is.
Well, then A, I guess it is.
Okay, so A it is. Have you heard anything about Operation Tango, the free
No.
PS5 game for if you're a PS Plus subscriber? From I
No,
want to say
not-
like 2 months ago.
No, not at all. I wasn't even aware it was a thing, which is weird because I've been keeping up on building my PS5 library as a person that doesn't have a PS5. But anyway,
Yeah. Operation Tango is this game that, if you haven't heard of it, it's interesting. It is a co-op game, and it is specifically meant to be played by two people in separate spaces.
Oh.
So, and the reason for that is one character plays as the agent, and the other character plays as the hacker. So you're given a mission, and the mission will be like infiltrate this company's mainframe, right? So the agent is on the ground and the hacker is working in the computer system. So like to start, in order to get you in, we need to give you a fake ID. We need to assign a fake ID. It takes place in the future. It's like 2039. So like everything is electronic. So we're going to download a fake ID to your glasses, and then everyone will just think that you're that person, and you can walk around the building without any issues.
Man, it's the dual like perpendicular multiplayer.
Yeah.
That sounds super rad to
It's
me.
very cool. And it is something that like Dale was like, I have some friends who want to play this with me. Would you I want to try it with you first though, to see how annoyed I get, right? Because if I get mad at you while we're playing the game, that's fine. If I get mad at a friend, there might not be recovery. And it's like, oh, okay, I can get behind that. So we did it. Now, we're set up where we're right next to each other. It's kind of like the bridge of the Starship Enterprise here. But
For sure.
I can't see her screen if I'm looking at my screen. And ditto for her. The way that it's set up, we do it. So even though we sit next to each other, I could never see her screen, right? It still felt like I was guiding her using the map, or she was guiding me using her map, and all of that. It was a really cool experience. It's 6 missions long. There's a trophy for beating it as both the agent and the hacker. And it was fun going through the mission the first time completely blind, and then going in with the roles reversed and seeing if we could just zoom through.
Yeah.
So, like, it's a fun co-op experience. Some of the hacking is lame because it's made for a controller. So, like, one of the things is you need to, like, hack, and it says, just hit the X button and pretend you're typing.
Is it only nice? Is it a PS5 exclusive?
I don't think so,
I wonder
because
if there's a PC version.
there's probably a PC version. I don't know what it is. It's Clever Games who did it. And the reason why I say there's probably a PC version is it talks about Discord integration in the PS5 version, and you can have a block list of people, and there's a PS5 block list and a crossplay block list.
Ooh, it's actually 20% off right now on Steam.
Well, look at that.
For the PC version, $15.99. I might have to take a look at this. It reminds me very much. Yeah, Steam even has it here because of your 36 hours in Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. You would probably enjoy this game because that's what I thought of when you first started talking about the idea that you're each playing together but you're doing different things. Have you ever played Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes?
I hate Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes.
I love it so much.
It never worked for me. Every time that people like tried to play it, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
this is not fun.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why, like, when I saw what Operation Tango was, I'm like, I get where Dale's coming from, where she doesn't want to just jump in blind.
Yeah, here's the
this is
term
gonna
I was
be-
looking for earlier.
Yeah.
Asymmetrical co-op.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh man, we were here together as one. That's also on PlayStation. We should look into that too. But yeah, there's an entire asymmetrical co-op bundle available for $44 on Steam right now. I might be buying this. We might be playing this on PC, man.
That's
Because
fine.
like this sounds rad. This sounds.
I would,
super
and I'd like
cool.
to do it with you. Like, that's one of the reasons I bring it to you with this whole thing to talk about, because it's an interesting thing. And we might ruin our friendship, which could happen because you get there, but I don't think so. I think the fact that I've tested the water and I know like how to calm down myself, I'll be okay.
I also I don't I'm not good at games, so like when I lose at a game, I don't take it to a personal level. At least I like to think so. We'll find out, I guess.
Well, we talk about the Olympic siege, and competition is what I like about them, and I'm a competitive dude. So, like,
yeah, but we wouldn't be competing with each other.
we
right?
wouldn't be competing with each other. That's true, but failure still hurts me in a way.
As a guy that spent the entire time we played Destiny together screaming at you to goddamn upgrade your character, I find that really hard to believe.
I didn't fail that much in Destiny. I'm gonna just
We
be
did
honest.
a lot. I was constantly saving your ass. Revive me, revive.
I don't think I needed to change my playstyle in Destiny.
Oh,
Let's be honest. It was not about the upgrades. But yeah, that is.
Dale, speaking of Dale and gaming, just to throw it out there, she threw out in the Discord like what the fuck is happening in Destiny right now. Things have gotten weird, and so it got me back into it. And she ain't wrong. It's gotten real weird in that game. More to come on that maybe. But sorry, yeah. So you guys.
No, yeah, we did the game. We ended up going through and getting the whole platinum. It's worth it. That's what I really wanted to say, is that it's worth it. I didn't know that it was on sale. And I'm going to dovetail away from what B was going to be about because of what you talked about with gaming and failure. I've lost it. The Streets of Rage 4 DLC, since we're still talking about PlayStation stuff. Yeah. The DLC, man, is awesome. If you
didn't love the main game, right?
I did not love the main game. Okay. The story was kind of and the fighting, it's not River City Girls. And River City Girls became my gold standard of a beat 'em up. Really my platinum standard, let's be honest. And Streets of Rage 4, as much as I liked it, co-op is not great. And if a beat 'em up game doesn't have great co-op, it's not great to just play those games single player. Yeah. I like the option. And what I really liked about River City Girls is, as much as you only have one life to get through the level, you can revive each other. And I love that. The fact that you can infinitely revive is awesome. I mean, I played the Space Jam: A New Legacy beat 'em up game, right? You can infinitely revive in that one too. And you have 3-4 lives per character. But then if the other player is there and can help and still alive, you can revive the other person. It just seems like a natural evolution of fighting games. And everybody talks about how Streets of Rage 4 modernizes the beat 'em up, and they kind of act like there hasn't been a beat 'em up since Streets of Rage 4. Streets of Rage 4 is the first time it's come back. And as someone who kind of trades and traffics in beat 'em ups, that seems so strange to me.
Yeah, that's so not true.
No, it's just the first time Streets of Rage came back since 1994, right? I think that's when I beat Streets of Rage 3, when I still lived in Massachusetts, so it has to have been 94. But yeah, so they've released the DLC, and initially I was on the fence about it, but right now, through the 29th of July, it's so affordable that I feel like you're almost doing yourself a disservice. It comes out to, you get 3 new characters to play as. Well, you get 4 new characters to play as, spoilers, because there's an unlockable character that's hidden behind everything. Yeah. So you get 4 new characters. So it kind of comes out to $2 per character. But then you consider that you get this whole new survival mode. And that right there, that's worth $4 there. So it's it comes to about $8 everywhere that it's available. On Steam, speaking of Steam, you can get the game and the DLC for less than the game right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, it strikes me as the kind of update to a game that kind of makes that version the standard version, which happens pretty often with video games nowadays. By the time the DLC comes out, it becomes the only reason to buy the game is to buy the full version. But that's cool. And like you're saying, the fact that that's the version that's on sale right now on Steam is honestly the way to do it. And for all its faults, the one thing that Valve has always done really well with Steam is it knows how to price out the various versions and updates to things.
Right. You're not wrong about that. And it is, but it really does feel like this is the game they always wanted to release. They just didn't have the time to do it. Especially because the 3 characters that are now unlockable, that you unlock as soon as you buy it, are 3 bosses, and then I played through the story mode again today, and like once you beat one of the bosses, it's kind of weird that like after you beat the 4th level, that's when you unlock Adam. I can't think of their last name. It's all right. It's not important.
Adam River City.
No, not Adam. Wouldn't it be great if Adam River City in Streets of Rage 4? No. I'm upset that I can't remember it because like Skate is his younger brother, so Skate has the same last name, and Cherry is his daughter, so Cherry has the same last name. The like family of friggin' Streets of Rage, I can't think of the last name of the family, and that bums me out. But yeah, so you don't unlock Adam until you clear the 4th level of the story.
Okay.
And then it feels like that's sort of what they wanted to do. Because when you beat Shiva, who's one of the new characters, like the conversation he has with you afterwards, he's like, it's nice to see that you still have it. And it kind of feels like if the game had allowed for it, that would have been when you unlocked him.
Mm-hmm.
Ditto when you beat the police officer who you beat in the 4th level, you fight her again in the 7th level. And, like, in the 4th level, it's like, you need to understand what's going on in the town, right? Like, it's rampant corruption. And then, like, the conversation after the 7th, she's like, I agree with what you're doing now. I see the problem. And
Hunter,
is like,
right.
Adam Hunter, yeah. So it feels like that would be the time that she would join you as well. And then you fight Max, who's a main character from the 2nd Streets of Rage game. And it's weird that after you break his brainwashing, he's not a playable character. So, like, in the story, it feels like those would be the moments you would unlock them, and you just don't because they just didn't have time to finish those characters. And it happens. Like, you can't be upset about that, especially when you consider the deadline for this game was April 30th, 2020. Like, that's when they wanted to release it, and everything that happened in 2020 leading up to it. So...
Right.
You forgive it. But it's really the survival mode that shines. You can do a random simulation. The story behind it is that the brain of Mr. X, the big bad from the Streets of Rage games, has been contained because he's revealed to just be a brain in the jar at the end of the 3rd game. The Streets of Rage gang have secured his brain in a jar and have set up a simulation system in order to train themselves to better prepare for whatever he might throw at them going forward.
Yeah, okay. All right.
So there's a random one where it just puts you into a random location with a random amount of enemies of different strengths, and you just keep fighting. And every time you clear a level, you can pick between random perks. But what I really enjoy, what I've really enjoyed so far, is each week the development team puts out a specific simulation that is the same every time you play it. So you play a little, you get better, you learn the order of the perks, you learn, okay, well, this time I picked a golden knife, but in 2 stages I can get a golden pipe, so I don't need to pick the golden knife, I can pick the other upgrade there, knowing that a pipe is coming. Or I can use that knife in the 2 stages, knowing that I'm going to get it replenished by a pipe going forward. So, like, it's cool because it makes it more strategic, and I have loved playing through that mode of the game. And as an added bonus, the other thing that is in the game is when you play through the survival mode, you unlock alternate moves for the characters, so you can sort of customize the moveset and have a character who is uniquely yours.
Wow.
That's
awesome.
It's a lot added to this game that like finally makes the game feel complete.
Yeah, like I said before, it sounds like this is basically going to become like the standard version of this game you're going to see everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's already available at Best Buy, all on one cart for the Switch.
Nice.
If you really
is
want
this
to think
the
of
version?
everything.
Is this the version that just came out on Stadia? I'm seeing here that there was a release earlier this month on Stadia.
That's probably... I don't know if it includes the Mr. X stuff or not. It probably does. I mean, it just...
It'd be weird if it didn't, but as we've learned with these streaming services, apparently that
Blasphemous is still on a version 1.13 build on Amazon Luna. And let's be honest, Amazon Luna is still in early access. Like, when is it going to go live? I've been a member of it for a year now.
Yeah.
And you haven't impressed me.
We'll see.
We will see. But that's the thing. And what I've really enjoyed about all of this is all this discussion of Steam and all of this goodness that Steam has done. Because over this past week, I finally broke free from my like Steam euphoria, and I'm
Okay.
kind of done with it.
I mean, Steam's been pretty much dead for a while. I've had some real issues with the ways in which they've handled the marketplace ever since, honestly, years ago when they started the Project Greenlight or whatever the nonsense they call it, where you can release games that may never come to fruition, which is not to say that like developers should not have an avenue to get to customers, but the ways in which they do not like guard that marketplace from just con artists and assholes is terrible.
Yeah, asset flips and shovelware abound.
Yeah.
But actually, I had so that game Astalon, Tears of the Earth, that I talked
Hmm.
about 2 months ago. It kind of got me into playing games on Steam. Really, Cyber Shadow got me into playing games on Steam because it
Okay.
was the most up to date version while I was competing in the game. So it felt like I should be playing with as much as I can, right? In a way. And it made me realize, oh, this computer that I built to stream, it can actually play most Steam games. And the Steam sale came, and I bought some games, and I was like a little upset after the fact, like, why did you do that, Devin? What's wrong with you? But then I heard about a game called Beard Blade, and I'm like, I'm gonna check it out. Right? It's $20. That's how much I'd buy a game sight unseen on like my Switch or my PlayStation. Let's
Sure.
try it. And I 98% the game in my first playthrough. And the only reason why it's not 100% is because one of the collectibles has disappeared from my game,
Oh.
never to be able to be collected.
Oh God, that's the fucking worst.
And it
I'm
just made
so
me realize,
sorry.
like, this is why I don't do this. This is why, like, just because a game interests me, I don't jump in. Like, I'm like, oh, it's Steam, and if there's a problem, they'll fix it right away. And there isn't a fix yet for this. I mean, as of recording, it could have come out or something like that, but I checked again today, and the card was still missing from the level.
Okay.
And I was a little disappointed by that. I'm not gonna lie. So the euphoria and the like, I'm gonna do everything on Steam. It's kind of worn off, and
Yeah.
it really feels strange that it worn off just in time for me to place a pre-order on their like Steam Deck portable console.
Yeah. Yeah, man. The Steam.
Which we didn't
Oh,
get a chance to
jeez.
talk about because of the nature of the recording. We said we might miss something. What are your thoughts on this Steam Deck, Siegen?
I there's somebody else pointed out the amount of things that Steam has put out there that have just gone to shit to the point where the Steam streaming box, the little like basically Chromecast thing that
Yeah,
they
Steam
gave you so you could
Connect.
stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, they those became so pointless to Steam that they were selling them for $1 just to clear out their warehouse, and they weren't shy about saying that's what they were doing. They were just like, yeah, we need to get rid of these. We have no interest in them anymore. So $1 if you want one. And like some people out there were like, oh, I love my little Steam Deck. It's what lets me do all my stuff. And everybody was pointing out like a million other options that they now have. So like Steam has a history of this kind of thing where they will get like all in on a thing and then disappear. And we talk about that all the time with Google and stuff like that. But as I've always pointed out, is that with Google, you can see an evolution. You can see how they get in behind a thing. It doesn't quite work for them. They pull out, but you can see the evolution of that product put into other things that they made, right? You don't see that with Valve. Like Valve very famously is so like keeping everything close to the vest. You don't see the inner workings. We have no idea what's ever going on. So it's not like we've ever seen any better version of the little Steam cast come out. Like, you know what I mean? Like that just doesn't exist anywhere now. It's just it's wild to me the number of people that are just like, this is it, the Switch killer. It's like I don't think that that's what it is at all, guys. It's going to be a nifty product. I might be interested in buying one after I see how well, other people react to it. But if it's anything like other Steam products, one version is going to come out, people are going to complain about some major function issues with it, and then it's never going to be a thing again. Like the Steam controller. I was actually like super invested in the idea of the Steam controller. I just didn't want to buy the first version. It was a lot of money at the time for a kid that didn't have much, and I just wanted to wait until they had a good solid version out there. The fact that there's been no real like support for it or version or Steam controller plus or 2 or anything like that. Like that's horrendous. Like
That's
they had the
a
opportunity
Steam
there.
caster you talked about, the Steam
Yeah,
box.
yeah,
That's how I got my Steam controller. When
yeah,
they dumped it down to, I think I paid $4 for it.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
there's no, they're not interested in following it up. And after I placed my pre-order, I got out my Steam controller to be like, let's try this game that I just bought with it. And I'm like, oh, this is bad. Oh, I don't think I want a Steam Deck anymore, because like this is just reminding me how bad their hardware is.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you hate the ways in which I am fully behind the Stadia project and think that I'm a fool for getting behind that, then listen when I say that I even think the Valve situation with the Steam Deck is worthless. Because if you think I give too much leeway to Alphabet and their nonsense with all of their bullshit peripherals and things like that, then what does it mean when I'm saying I have no interest in Steam's?
Yeah, that is an interesting fact you bring up. And it's something, but like, yeah, Beardblade really just opened my eyes, and I'm like, oh yeah, sometimes the games, they're like just broken when they
Mm-hmm.
release on Steam. And like, that's why Astalon got all those updates right away. That's why Cyber Shadow was on its like highest version number, was on Steam for so long, because it was playable, but like, there were some issues that really needed to be addressed by
Yeah.
your power users on PC.
If
Like,
you really want to kind of understand what we mean when we say like sometimes Steam just lets shit just be put out on this system, like on its marketplace, there is a running YouTube like series from various content creators of trying to find the lowest rated games on Steam and seeing why they're low rated and doing exposés or whatever on them. Some of them are played for laughs, some of them are actually serious, like, hey, don't spend your money on this. But there's a number of different creators out there that have done numerous videos each on trying to find Steam games that are just so horribly produced that they're literally just crap. I think with the number one that everybody kind of latched onto within the past year was College Tycoon or something like that, where like all of the promises of like a roller coaster tycoon or a 2 Point Hospital, where like you create a college and you see what it's like to build dorms, build classrooms, and collect money, raise tuition, lower tuition, all of this great stuff, and it is apparently nothing. Like the most you can do is put a couple of desks and like have like a chalkboard floating in space, and that's about the extent of it, but it still costs like 20-30 bucks on Steam if you want to get in on it. Like that was, and so like it was kind of out there as like, is this a scam? Well, you kind of know what you're getting into. It takes the Kickstarter problem and blows it out to a level that is unacceptable, because basically you go to a place like Steam expecting to go to the Steam marketplace to buy a product. And the fact that Kickstarter, you type in Kickstarter, you kind of know I'm going to a place where things are unfinished. I'm going to a place of promise. I'm not going to a place of finished product. The Steam marketplace is not that. Nowadays, if you search on Steam, you don't know if you're getting an unfinished product or not. If you read things, sure, but and this is, I don't want to, what I want to say is like, I don't personally feel this is entirely on the consumer when they fall into this trap on Steam. Like I would if you said, well, I gave $600 to the Kickstarter and it went nowhere. I'd feel bad for you, and we could talk about the intricacies of that. But at the end of the day, you went to a Kickstarter and you dropped that money. You kind of knew what you were buying into here. If you told me you went to Steam and, like you're saying, you spent all this money, quote unquote, but you bought this game, the first thing I noticed when I brought it up is that the first thing it says is that it's a Greenlight project. So like, I wouldn't have spent that money on it. Even if it was 20 bucks, I still wouldn't give 20 bucks to a Greenlight project right now.
yeah,
But
I
you
didn't.
don't, you don't,
I don't know
you're
that.
not in that, you're not in that market as much as I am. And I don't blame you for that. I don't blame anybody for that.
Just,
It's crazy the ways in which it is hidden from the consumer, how broken some of that stuff can be.
I mean, and the reason why I went for that is that people that I had played Cyber Shadow against and competed with, and like part of that community, they talking about this game, and I'm like, well, Astalon, that's how I found it. And even though I didn't love that experience, it was a solidly built game. It felt like a finished game, just maybe one that they hadn't tested extensively. So when they were getting actual feedback from people, they're like, oh yeah, we can fix that, we can put this in, we can make this happen. And I'm like, well, Beardblade looks more finished than Astalon was. And for that, like, and that's my one issue. I mean, other people have talked about other cards and collectibles that have just disappeared from their games, so I'm not alone. Like,
Yeah.
River City Girls on Switch, right? The first time I played through it, I discovered a glitch that I have never been able to recreate. And that even like I've been in touch with testers at Way Forward who are like, we don't know how it happened. We cannot recreate it just using code. And it was that like I collected an item and it didn't register it. And I don't know why. But like that's the thing that happened. Like I've been in that situation. I didn't expect it from this. I mean, like I didn't expect it from River City Girls because the game had been out for a year before I bought it on Switch. Like,
and this is a thing that like, and that's a thing where like it feels like it's a one-off, whereas like it feels like with the Greenlight stuff, and maybe not the specific issue that you had, but very often a lot of the stuff that people are levying against Greenlight are happening to hundreds, if not thousands, of people that are getting in on a product because a certain name is attached or a certain idea is there, and they want to support it. And like I said, like I can on the one hand, I can see the idea that like you put your money where you want to put your money, and if it ends up to be a flop, that's on you. But the ways in which the Steam marketplace does not help you make that decision, like they should be there. There's clearly no protection for the consumer in that conversation, and it's not that I feel like they have to guard you 100%, but they should do their due diligence, and I don't feel like they do.
Yeah, I get that. I feel like I've been experiencing that a lot more. Or at least I've been seeing evidence of that a lot more in 2021. And also, that's not hyper surprising, considering 2020 put a lot of games on hold, right? Yeah, like, is there a game that you're looking forward to in 2021?
I'm trying to think if there's anything that was coming out that's not any longer. Not, man.
Like
not
Nintendo
really.
stuff, like WarioWare is something I'm looking forward to, and the new Mario Party. But that's Nintendo. That's like a whole different animal. But like PlayStation, I can't think of a game where I'm like, I can't wait for that to happen. I can't wait for this game to come out. Like Xbox Series, whatever. All these like 6 months of games, day and date on the Game Pass. But like, I don't even know what those games are. You just tell me that for 6 months, I'm going to get a new game, like a AAA game, if I'm on Game Pass, and I couldn't tell you what those games are. Maybe Halo Infinite?
Yeah, I'm excited for other people about things like the new Horizon, right? Is that this year?
Maybe. Yeah. Until we get a date, I can't believe that it's this year. Like, and that's the reason why, like, I want to finish Horizon Zero Dawn. I started it, and then Breath of the Wild came out, and Breath of the Wild, you know, I'm a Zelda guy. I felt the desire to play through that whole game, right?
Yeah.
Until I didn't anymore, and then I finished it. But, like, unfortunately, that means that, like, Horizon Zero Dawn kind of got left behind. And now that a sequel's coming, I really just want to dive into that world. But until I have, like, a date for that, it's low priority. Like, right now, I'm going through Blaster Master 0, 1, and 2 again, because 0, 3 comes out later this week, and I'm excited to finish that trilogy, and those have been very good games, so I'm excited to replay through those, and it's because I have a date, right? Like, and I had a date for Axiom Verge 2, which is why I finally played Axiom Verge, and now that's just sitting in limbo with, like, we don't know, but it'll come someday.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I could really point to a specific game that I'm like really interested in. You know, that I know is coming out in 2021.
Yeah, it's so things like this, these like a Biomutant that like everybody kind of shit all over, or like a bunch of the Steam stuff that like I feel is just bubbling to the surface. Like people are just starved for new content. So like if it looks like it's more complete than it might be, they're willing to throw their hats in.
I mean, even as somebody that's still playing it, and I defended the hell out of, you know, something even like Mario Golf, Super Smash Stars, whatever the fucking nonsense subtitle is on it. Like, you could even point to that. Super Rush, thank you.
Yeah.
You could even point to that and talk about ways in which there's clearly moments where things could have gone buck wild, and it just they don't, because it feels like there was a moment where they just decided we have to get this game out, right? Like I can fully admit to that, even though I love that game, I still can definitely point to moments of that, and so yeah, man. I mean, there's all this stuff that is coming out that just feels like it was either rushed or at some point, they stopped developing it and just put it out. There's stuff out there that is coming out that they've put on hold indefinitely until they can figure out. I mean, what we're talking about is honestly one of the big things was Cyberpunk last year, right?
Yeah.
Like in the ways in which that kind of came out and really kind of opened. Well, I think what that did is that started this conversation for a lot of people where they were like, wait a fucking minute, are developers maybe just businesses after all? Like yeah. And guess what happens when the business like starts to dry up real quick? Like they fucking open the floodgates in hopes that something latches on, and so far I don't know if anything really has.
Yeah, I don't know what I would consider my game of the year this year, halfway through, more than halfway through. Like, I don't know, Pac-Man 99 was pretty cool, but it was Pac-Man 99.
Still playing a fuck ton of Stardew Valley 1.5 update.
Yeah, see,
really
like,
rad.
I get that.
That's
Mario Golf has been awesome. I've really enjoyed it, but it does feel incomplete.
Yeah.
Especially when you play through the story and you see like models for other characters, and it's like, why can't that fucking Spiny hold a golf club? Why can't Birdo hold a golf club?
Why do I not get to play as these Hammer Bros and things like that? Yeah.
Koopa Troopa can teach me how to golf, but I can't play as Koopa Troopa.
I want to eventually play as one of the masters, the Koopas in the robes. Like I want to like that would be a phenomenal fun like character to take out on the course. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's games are weird right now. Everything's weird right now, right? And we don't need to look any further than the Olympics to discuss it. Do you want to talk at all about this vaccine thing going on with the NFL, or do you want to maybe save that for next week when there's more information?
We should wait and see what's going on, because while a lot of people have been saying, like, look at the NFL falling on its face, the actual numbers are actually starting to look better and better every day. Last I checked, they were just under 80% of the whole corp company had been vaccinated, which is and only the people that they're requiring, 78% of the people they're requiring to be vaccinated, which are some upper tier folks, but that's still a pretty good number of people in the organization. But there's also a lot of people saying it's not enough, and I don't disagree with that. 100% or bust is my feeling on all of this shit. So like, yeah, I think kind of sitting back and seeing what happens over the next few days is important.
So have you heard about the forfeiture rule? Are you familiar with that? Like, what's going to happen?
I've only kind of offhandedly heard about it, but has that been? I mean, I know they put it out there, but like, there's well,
it can't happen yet because the game
right.
Started.
That's what I mean. It's like they can say that this rule exists, but until the games are going, like,
yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know if it really matters,
right. So I'm fine waiting and seeing how it affects things, but I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of it. Because the idea that if your team causes an outbreak amongst unvaccinated people, you get a W, you get a loss, and both teams don't get a paycheck, that's crazy incentive to like, don't fuck us over.
Well, and as I believe, this is not my observation. I want to make that clear, but I think it's an apt one. Somebody pointed out that, like, for all of these assholes that were out there saying they did not want to comment when Kaepernick was I was going to say causing a stir, but that's not the way I want to put it. Like, was rightfully out there, like, protesting in his only way that he could. The number of guys that said, I don't want to get involved, I have to feed my family. The number of guys that are willingly saying that they would leave the NFL if they were forced to vaccinate is like, what happened to you having to feed your family, asshole? What happened to that excuse? Like, it's one or the other, man. Either this cause is not important enough to you, and so you decided to stay out of it, which is fine. Just say that. Don't use your family as a shield. But then to turn around and say that, like, vaccinations, you're not going to get vaccinated, and you don't care what the NFL has to say about it, is in the same breath is just upsetting. It's just
it's certainly something to continue monitoring. And it's part of the everything that we talk about on the show. It's just some of the stuff I've heard crazy. Also, as a former Ohioan, how do you feel about the Cleveland Guardians? Do you have?
I love it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Tom Hanks being one of the owners of the team was like the only part of that news article that surprised me. I've been waiting for a while for the Indians to come out with what they were going to do next. It's been pretty well known that they wanted to switch their name, but I think that they were really hesitant to do what the Washington football team did.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to just become just baseball, like Cleveland baseball for a while. And like that's not an excuse. Like they should have done this years ago. But at the end of the day, I think the Cleveland Guardians is a badass baseball team name. and I want to like the second that name came out, I was like, well, I gotta buy me some Guardians merchandise.
I do. I gotta say, it's grown on me. When I first heard it, I thought about all the other things that it could be, but it's not the Cleveland Guardians. It's badass. It's kind of badass. You think about Guardians of the Galaxy, and if they can get Groot up in there one day, they'll be the best. They'll be
like it'll be an unofficial thing, right?
Yeah.
It'll be some guy in the stands that paints himself like Rocket. That'll be the joke, right? And people will love it. Yeah, man, I'm all for it. Like
it's better than. We've joked about it, and you just referenced it. The Washington football team.
Yeah.
That's not a team name, right? that's a placeholder. That is a note to follow. So in professional sporting, it is. Yeah. So it's nice that they have a good name. I'm glad that they're finally moving forward with it, and I'm glad that you enjoy the name, especially as someone who lived there. I didn't know if I was able to have chit in the game as someone who never lived in Ohio.
Yeah, man. No, I'm excited. Like, it's like I said, it's a really badass name, and it's going to be really interesting to see what this does in terms of fans and stuff. Because if you're from Ohio, there is one team that you always support, no matter where you're from. You always support the Buckeyes.
Yeah.
Ohio State is that is the team of that state. And the Cleveland Indians was one of those things where like was joked about in movies. So I think that the other big thing about this is this becomes a really good opportunity for them to really rebuild themselves as a brand. And like baseball is a business, man. Like it has been forever. So like the fact that they jumped on this opportunity to create this very, very marketable name with a very cool looking logo, and like the opportunities there for all sorts of different mascots and merchandising, and just it gives me it provides a level of fun to a sport and a team that it was becoming very unfun to think about. So like they did a really good job with that.
Nice. Cool. That makes me happy. Thank you for that. It injects a little bit of happiness regarding sporting into this episode that was kind of dour up in the front. So thank you for that. Where's Major League 3? This is the time to make Major League 3, and it is about the Cleveland Indians changing their names. Get on it, Hollywood. Here's the synergy you need.
Oh, man.
All right. Anything else that you'd like to add before we send this one out to the peoples?
No, I've been kind of just checking in on some oldies and some goodies in terms of like movies and TV shows. The Nanny is up on HBO Max, which I was not aware. Like I've been kind of in on some Friends and some Fresh Prince for a while, and I don't know when The Nanny got added, but I'm loving that right now. New Adventures of Old Christine type stuff, like I'm just like diving into some really weird classic sitcom-y stuff right now, and just trying to. I think what it is I'm building up my library for when we inevitably are stuck inside for another few months.
Oof. You had it, and then you just sort of brought it back down to earth in a not super happy way.
Hey, man, I'm going to be happy about this, but I'm not going to hide from it.
No, you're right. I don't disagree. Along that same thing, a bunch of Netflix stuff that I'm sure we'll touch on going forward. I feel like Masters of the Universe Revelation is something that we should probably check out and discuss.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Especially because it'd be irresponsible of us to not check in on Kevin Smith when he does a thing.
Yeah, right? It would feel bad. It'd feel wrong, like we're breaking a sacred covenant with the man. And then there's also, coming on Thursday, the final trilogy of the Fall of Cybertron, Kingdom. So I have already talked, Board with Friends already talked to me. I'll be doing another episode of that, so that'll be somewhere. Hear me talk about robots that turn into other things. This time animals.
Yeah.
Related to this.
Also,
Yeah.
So sorry, just in terms of streaming stuff that you should check out this week that we'll probably talk about next week, maybe. I mean, Jungle Cruise coming out at the end of this week.
That's a
Keep your
good
eyes
point.
out for
Yeah.
that. It's a long time coming. There's a lot to talk about there, not least of which the idea that The Rock going from the CGI Scorpion King in The Mummy Returns to the leading man in a mummy style adventure movie is, I feel like, a really nice come around for him, and I'm very excited to see him in it, and I'm very excited to talk about it.
Wonderful, wonderful. I don't know why I turned into Nick Schwartzen from Just Go With It. I do know why I've talked to this for the Sheepskin 9. No, the Adam Sandler Cinematic Universe, we've kicked off season 2. So if you want to see how we're charting this next one, that episode is available, and we did Just Go With It. We decided that would be the movie to start with after establishing for reasons that will be hopefully made clear if you listen to the episode. And it's worth checking out. Trust me. If you're one of those people who's like, when are you going to do The Wedding Singer, Devin? You want to get in now so you don't have a bunch to catch up on. What was that going to be September, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Spoilers.
we've talked about it. Yeah.
And also, we have a very special episode coming at the end of this week on Thursday. And do you know what that's going to be featuring, Sejin? Is it going to be featuring ladies with ears for hats? Perhaps guitars and sharps and flats? Neat, deep, a groovy song? Is everyone invited? Should they come along? Hurry, hurry.
All I heard was Big Mac, Big Mac, Big Mac, so I'm not sure what you were talking about.
Josie and the Pussycats, starring Kay Hanley as the voice of Josie when she sings, because I couldn't think of Rachel's last name.
Rachel Cook?
Rachel Cook, yeah, Rachel Lee Cook. That's her name. Mm-hmm. Rosario Dawson and Tara Strong. Tara Reid. Tara Strong. I'm an awful person.
I would love to see Tara Strong play.
That would be great, right?
Yeah, that'd be rad, yeah. But no, it's Tara Reid.
It's Tara Reid, yeah. So we're going back to Riverdale, kinda, by looking at the Josie and the Pussycats movie. So make sure that you do all your product placement stuff now. If you have a product that you want us to mention in that product placement filled episode, get us on Twitter at the Say Report, and we'll try to work it in.
Maybe whisper a track of it, and that we will sneak it in underneath the entire episode.
I'm excited. I'm going to try to get in touch with Mr. Movie Phone. Right? Okay. He stopped returning my calls about 5 years ago, but that water's got to be under the bridge, right? All right. So if you would like to talk to Sejin about Steam and how you feel about the Greenlight program, because it seems like he's got more to say on that, he's on Twitter at Siege versus the World.
And if you have any other classic films that Devin should watch in black and white, you can hit him up at Devin D. Decker.
All right. So until next time, Will, please bring us home.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devin Decker and Sejin Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so it's delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.